Mara Solano had 3 minutes to decide. The man sitting across the desk from her was not the kind of man who waited. He had a face like carved stone and eyes that had seen things they would never talk about. His name was Dante Vega, and the paper in front of her said that everything her father owed, every cent, every favor, every broken promise, now belonged to her. She had not eaten since yesterday. Her shoes were wet from the rain. She had taken 2 buses and walked 6 blocks to get to this building because she could not afford a cab. And now the most dangerous man in the city was watching her, the way a man watches a clock. "Your father took money from me," Dante said. His voice was low and even, no anger in it. That was somehow worse than if there had been. "He is gone now. The debt is not." Mara looked at the number on the paper. She looked at it for a long time. "I don't have this," she said. "I know." "Then why am I here?" Dante leaned back in his chair. He looked at her the way people look at things they are deciding what to do with, not with cruelty, just with thought. "You speak 3 languages," he said. "You handled your father's accounts for 5 years. You kept his books clean even when his hands were dirty." He paused. "I need someone like that." Mara said nothing. "You will work for me," Dante said. "You will organize my calendar, manage my correspondence, coordinate between my offices. You will be paid well. Very well." He named a number, the kind that made her hands go still in her lap. "When the total reaches the amount on that paper, we are finished. You walk away free." Free. She almost laughed. She had not been free since she was 17 years old, since the first time her father had shaken her awake in the middle of the night and told her to come sit with him while he made a call, since she had started answering his phone when he was too far gone to answer it himself, since she had become the scaffolding holding up a man who was slowly collapsing. He had been gone for 6 weeks now. Heart attack, the doctors said. She had not cried at the funeral. She was not sure what that said about her. "How long?" she asked. 2 years, possibly less, depending on performance. 2 years. She was 24. She could do 2 years. She picked up the pen. She signed. Dante looked at her signature. He nodded once. He pressed a button on his desk, and a tall man with a quiet face appeared in the doorway. "Connor will show you to your quarters," Dante said. Mara stood. She picked up her bag, which was old and slightly falling apart at one strap. She did not apologize for it. She followed Connor out of the office. She did not look back. The apartment was on the 23rd floor of a building she had only ever seen from the street. It had floor-to-ceiling windows, white walls, furniture that looked like it had been chosen by someone who understood exactly what beauty was. There was a kitchen she did not know how to use properly, and a bathroom with a shower that had 7 different settings. Connor left a phone, a card, and a single typed sheet of paper on the kitchen counter. Her schedule, starting tomorrow at 7. She stood at the window for a long time that night. The city spread out below her, lit up and restless. She had grown up in this city. She had grown up in a neighborhood where the windows were smaller and the noise never fully stopped. She knew this city the way you know a difficult person you have loved for a long time. Every shortcut, every corner that felt wrong after dark, every small bakery that opened at 5 in the morning. She pressed her fingertips against the cold glass. This was not her life. But it was the one she had signed for. She was good at the work. She had not expected to be surprised by this, and yet somehow she was. She had thought Dante Vega's world would be chaos barely held together. She had been wrong. His operation was precise, layered, and demanding. There were lawyers and accountants and property managers, and a network of businesses that ran across the city like roots under pavement. He needed someone who could track all of it without flinching, without asking questions, and without making mistakes. Mara did not flinch, she did not ask questions, and she did not make mistakes. Within 2 weeks, she had reorganized his scheduling system entirely. Within a month, she had caught 3 billing errors that had been quietly bleeding money for over a year. She presented the findings to Dante in a single page, clear and brief, no extra words. He read it, set it down. "Good," he said. That was all. But from Dante Vega, she was already learning. That single word carried more weight than a paragraph from anyone else. She worked long hours. She did not mind. There was nothing waiting for her in the apartment except the view and her own thoughts, and she had learned years ago that staying busy was the best way to keep both at a safe distance. Dante gave her access to everything she needed. His building, his calendar, his correspondence with people she understood, instinctively, never to name out loud in the wrong room. He gave her a car and a driver. He gave her an account for work expenses that she used with surgical restraint, which she suspected he noticed, because he never commented on it. He gave her things before she needed them. Coffee the way she liked it appeared on her desk each morning before she arrived. No one told her how that started. When she mentioned once, in passing, that her sister's birthday was coming up, a car was arranged to take her across the city for the afternoon, no questions asked. He treated her, she realized slowly, with a kind of careful and complete attention, just never with warmth. There was always a distance, clean and exact. He spoke to her as one professional to another. He never touched her. He never asked her anything about her life that was not directly necessary for work. He was present and attentive and entirely, perfectly removed. She told herself this was a relief. She told herself this every day. The first time she understood what Dante's world actually meant, not in theory, but in the body, was at a dinner in his private dining room on a Tuesday evening. 4 men she had never met, Italian suits, the kind of stillness that comes not from peace, but from a lifetime of discipline. She had been asked to sit in and take notes. She took notes. She did not react to anything she heard. She did not let her pen slow or her breathing change. When it was over, and the men were leaving, one of them looked at her, the way that certain men look at women they have decided are objects rather than people. He said something in Italian. She understood it. She did not show that she understood it. Dante said something back. She understood that too. The man laughed and left. She kept her face entirely still. Later, when the room was empty and she was gathering her things, Dante said, without looking up from the papers he was reviewing, "You speak Italian." It was not a question. "You already knew that," she said. A pause. "Yes," he said. She gathered her things and left. In the elevator, alone, she let herself breathe. Later that night, she sat by the window with a glass of water and thought about the look on that man's face when Dante had spoken to him. The way the amusement had dropped right out of the room. Whatever Dante had said, it had landed like a door closing. She stared at the glass in her hand, its perfect stillness. She set it on the windowsill. She did not drink from it for the rest of the night. She did not know what that meant. She told herself she didn't need to. She was 2 years into nothing, that was all. She had signed a paper, and she would honor it, and when it was done she would walk away, and that would be the end of Dante Vega in her life. Clean and simple. She told herself that too. 3 months in, a colleague at one of Dante's satellite offices, a man named Oliver, mid-40s, kind eyes, the sort of man who brought donuts to meetings, asked her to dinner. Casually, friendly, nothing threatening about it. She said she was busy. She was not busy. She went back to the apartment and sat in the kitchen and stared at the counter for a while without turning the lights on. It was not that she was afraid of Oliver. It was that she had stopped thinking of herself as someone who had a life outside of this building. That realization sat in the room with her, heavy and quiet. She got up. She turned on the lights. She made tea. She did not examine it further. There were things you looked at and things you didn't. She had learned this years ago, sitting beside her father in the dark while he made calls he shouldn't have been making. Some things, you just kept moving past. She kept moving. 6 months was when things started to change. Not dramatically, not in a way she could have pointed to and named. More like the way light changes in a room when a cloud passes. Everything looks exactly the same but somehow different. Dante started eating breakfast. That sounds like nothing. It was not nothing. For the first 3 months she had never seen him eat before noon. He moved through mornings the way very contained people do. Coffee only, no food, body fueled entirely by discipline and whatever drove men like him. Then one morning she came into the kitchen to gather her things before heading to the main office, and he was there, sitting at the table, eating toast. He looked up. She looked at him. Neither of them said anything unusual. "Good morning," she said. "Good morning," he said. She made her coffee. She left. She spent most of the morning turning the moment over in the back of her mind, while doing 3 other things simultaneously, which was normal for her and annoying. It was nothing. Men eat breakfast. This was not a significant event, except that the next morning he was there again, and the morning after that. She started waking up earlier. She told herself it was because she had more work to do. She had always had a lot of work to do. More was not strictly accurate, but she got up earlier anyway, and she started making enough coffee for 2 cups without deciding to. And once she realized she was doing it, she stood in the kitchen for a moment looking at the second cup. She poured it. She left it on the counter where he would find it. She told herself it was simply efficient. The work deepened. Dante began bringing her into meetings she had not been brought into before. Not as a note-taker, as a participant. He would ask her opinion on things, logistics, strategy, the reliability of a particular contractor, with the same steady directness he used for everything. He listened when she answered. Really listened. Not in the performative way some men listen where their face is turned toward you but their attention is somewhere else entirely. He disagreed with her sometimes. He told her clearly when he did and why. She disagreed back with the same clarity. He seemed to find this neither surprising nor annoying. He simply processed her argument, updated his position when she was right, and held his ground when he was not. She had never worked with anyone like him. Most people, in her experience, either dismissed her quietly or performed interest they didn't feel. Dante did neither. He took what she brought to the table and put it on the table and examined it without distortion. It was, she admitted to herself during a late night at the office, the most professional respect she had ever been given by anyone. She did not examine that admission for very long. She went back to the spreadsheet. 8 months in, she found the earring. She had been looking for the receipt for a catering order she needed to file. She was moving through the kitchen counter quickly, sliding papers aside, her mind already 3 tasks ahead. Her hand stopped. Gold, small, a single teardrop shape. She picked it up. She stood there holding it. It was not her earring. She did not wear earrings like this. She did not, if she was being precise about it, own earrings at all right now because she had sold the last pair, her grandmother's small silver ones, 2 winters ago when the heating bill had come in catastrophically high. She set the earring back down exactly where she had found it. She found the receipt. She filed it. She went back to her office and sat at her desk and opened the next item on her list. Outside the window, the city moved. Trucks below. Someone on the corner with an umbrella, though it was not raining. She stared at her screen. She was not hurt. She had absolutely no right to be hurt. This was not her home in any real sense. This was an arrangement. She had signed a paper. Dante Vega was a separate person, living a separate life, and whatever was on his kitchen counter was his business, entirely and completely, and nothing about any of it had anything to do with her. She typed for 11 minutes without registering a single word she wrote. She deleted it, started again. That night she lay on her bed with the lights off and stared at the ceiling. The room was very quiet. The city outside hummed at the low level it always did, the kind of sound you stop hearing after a while. She thought about the earring for 4 minutes. She counted them, without meaning to. Then she got up. She went to the kitchen. She made coffee even though it was almost midnight and the caffeine would keep her awake. She drank it standing at the counter, looking at nothing. When she went back to bed, she did not think about it again. She was very good at not thinking about things she had decided not to think about. She had been practicing this skill since she was 17 years old. It was one of the most reliable things about her. 9 months. She was at a coffee shop near the East office, the small one she liked because it was never crowded and they did not play music, when she ran into a woman named Claire who had been a year ahead of her in university. They had not been close, but they had known each other well enough. Claire had been the kind of person who was good at everything and anxious about all of it, the sort of combination that makes for excellent friends and difficult enemies. Claire looked at her with the particular expression people use when they are trying to calculate how much your life has changed. "You look good," Claire said. "You look different." "Different how?" Mara asked, out of genuine curiosity. Claire considered this. "Settled," she said finally, "which is strange because last I heard things had been really hard for you, after your dad." "They were," Mara said. "But you're okay now?" Mara thought about the apartment, the view, the car that picked her up in the mornings, the work she was good at, and the man who told her so, without making it into something it wasn't. "I'm okay," she said. She meant it. That was the strange part. She was not happy in any simple way. She did not have the kind of life that looked uncomplicated from the outside, or from the inside either, but she was okay. She was doing something she was good at. She was not drowning. She had stopped expecting not to drown, which meant the not drowning had started to feel like more than just survival. She finished her coffee with Claire and walked back to the office and thought, for a moment standing on the corner waiting for the light to change, about what settled meant. The light changed. She walked. 10 months in, Dante asked her to attend a dinner. Not a working dinner, not the kind with suits and strategic silence. A private dinner. 4 people, herself, Dante, a man named Gregory who handled international contracts for Dante's import operations, and Gregory's wife, a woman named Fiona who was warm and clever, and who laughed easily. It was the first social thing she had done in nearly a year. She wore a dark dress she had bought with her own salary, not the expense account. She had thought about this choice while standing in the shop. She had made it deliberately, though she could not have said exactly why. The dinner was at a restaurant she had walked past dozens of times but never entered. White tablecloths, candles, the kind of quiet that costs money. Fiona asked her about her work and about herself, with the kind of genuine interest that is either completely natural or very well performed. Mara decided it was genuine. She answered honestly, in the careful way she had learned to be honest, saying true things without saying everything. Gregory and Dante talked about work in the easy way that men do when they have known each other long enough not to need to try. Mara listened. She was always listening to something. At one point during the main course, Gregory said something that made Fiona laugh, really laugh, the kind that surprised her, and Fiona reached across the table and grabbed Gregory's hand without thinking about it. Mara looked at their hands. She looked at them for longer than she meant to. She picked up her glass and took a sip of water and moved her eyes to the window, where the street outside was doing ordinary things. The dinner ended. They said goodbye to Gregory and Fiona on the pavement outside. Fiona hugged Mara as if they had been friends for years, which Mara was not prepared for but did not pull away from. In the car on the way back, she and Dante sat on opposite sides of the back seat. The city moved past the windows. Neither of them spoke for a while, which was not unusual. Then Dante said, "You were good tonight." "I wasn't performing," she said. "I know," he said. "That's what I meant." She looked at the window. The lights outside. A woman running for a bus. A man closing up a shop front. She did not say anything else. Neither did he. The car continued. The city continued. She pressed her fingertips against the cold glass of the window, very lightly, and watched the street pass. 11 months. She was reviewing contracts in the small conference room on the 12th floor when Connor appeared in the doorway. "There's a charity gala on Friday," he said. "Mr. Vega will need you to attend." She looked up. "In what capacity?" Connor's face did exactly what Connor's face always did, which was nothing. "I'll send you the details," he said, and left. The details arrived. It was a large event. Black tie. The kind of gathering where Dante's presence meant something specific. Visibility, relationship maintenance, the careful social work that men in his position had to do in rooms full of people who would all deny knowing exactly what he was phase. She confirmed her attendance. She returned to the contracts. On Friday, she wore the deep green dress she had been given access to through the account she never used extravagantly, and she put her hair up the way that made her look, she had been told once, a long time ago by her mother, like someone with nothing to prove. She got in the car. She went to the gala. She did not know that everything was about to shift. She did not know that someone was going to reach for her hand in a crowded room, and that the whole careful structure she had built around herself for 11 months was going to develop a crack she would not be able to ignore. She sat in the back of the car and watched the city move past the windows and thought about the contracts she had left half-reviewed on the conference room table. She was thinking about work when the car stopped. She was thinking about work when she walked through the doors. She was still, technically, thinking about work when she stumbled. And then a hand caught her. And everything that came after that was a different story entirely. The gala was full of the kind of people who have learned to make talking about nothing look like talking about everything. Crystal everywhere. The low sound of an orchestra playing something that no one was listening to. Women in expensive fabric. Men with the polished look of people who never stood in the rain without an umbrella nearby. Mara moved through it the way she moved through most of Dante's world. Present, attentive, and with the careful blankness she had long ago perfected. She tracked where Dante was without looking directly at him. She spoke when spoken to. She listened more than she talked. She was crossing from one side of the room to the other when she stepped on the edge of a small riser she had not seen. The lighting in that corner was warm and low, and stumbled. Not dramatically. Nothing fell. She caught herself in less than a second. But someone was already reaching. A hand closed around her arm. Steady, sure. The kind of grip that knew exactly how much pressure was needed and used only that. She straightened. She looked up. The man was tall and had an easy, open face, the kind that is not perfect in any feature but adds up to something you want to keep looking at. Dark hair. A suit that fit him well. He was looking at her not with the sharp calculation she was used to from men in these rooms, but with something much simpler. He looked concerned. "Are you all right?" he said. "Yes," she said. "Thank you." He didn't let go of her arm right away. He said her name, her full name, first and last. She went completely still. "You know who I am," she said. "I know who you are," he said. He said it without any particular weight, as if knowing her name was not unusual, as if he had simply been waiting for the right moment to use it. "My name is Rafael Cruz. I have been hoping to meet you for a while." She looked at him. He looked at her. His hand was still on her arm, and she was aware of this in a way that was not alarming but was definitely something. "Why?" she asked. "Because," he said, "I have heard you are the most competent person in any room you're in. And I have a problem that requires a very competent person." She almost smiled. "That's a professional introduction." "I'm a professional person," he said. And then he did smile, and it changed his whole face, and she understood in that moment exactly why he had waited to use it. She was going to say something back. She had already assembled the words. And then she felt it. The change in the air behind her. The particular quality of stillness that preceded Dante Vega entering a close radius. She had spent 11 months learning this the way you learn to recognize weather. Rafael Cruz's eyes moved, just slightly, to the space behind her left shoulder. His expression did not change, but something in it settled, the way a person's expression settles when they have just confirmed something they already suspected. She did not turn around. She counted. She got to 37 before Dante's voice came, just behind her, quiet and precise as everything he did. "Mara." Just her name. She turned. Dante looked at her first, then at Rafael. The look at Rafael lasted exactly 2 seconds. It was not aggressive. It was not theatrical. It was simply a look that communicated, in 2 seconds flat, a complete and comprehensive understanding of the situation. Rafael Cruz met it calmly. He released her arm. He inclined his head very slightly in Dante's direction. Not submission, not challenge, just acknowledgement. "Mr. Vega," Rafael said. Dante said nothing. He looked at Mara. She followed him. She was aware, as she walked away, that she had not said goodbye to Rafael Cruz. She was also aware that she still had her champagne glass in her hand, which she had not been holding a moment ago, which meant she had picked it up at some point during the conversation without noticing. She kept it all the way to the car. She sat in the back seat and held it. Dante got in on the other side. The car moved. The gala lights grew smaller through the rear window. She became aware, after a moment, that she still had the glass. A gala champagne flute, thin crystal stem, still with an inch of something pale gold in the bottom. She had stolen a glass from a charity gala. She looked at it. She set it carefully on the seat between them. Dante glanced at it. He said nothing. She looked out the window. Her heart was doing something irregular. She breathed slowly and leveled it out, the way she had learned to do years ago when she needed to be steady. She thought about Rafael Cruz's hand on her arm, the way he had said her name first, like a greeting, like he had been looking forward to it, the way he had looked at her, not past her, not through her, at her. She watched the city outside. The car moved through the dark and lit streets and she held very still, the way she held still when something had happened that she hadn't finished processing yet. The champagne glass sat on the seat between them. Neither of them mentioned it. The next morning, Dante was already at the table when she came into the kitchen. She poured her coffee. She poured his. She set it down without looking at him too directly, which was something she had never needed to think about before and was now thinking about, which was annoying. "Thank you," he said. "Of course," she said. She sat across from him and looked at her own cup and thought, "This is fine. This is a normal morning. Nothing has changed." Nothing had changed. She believed that for approximately 40 minutes. Then Connor appeared in the doorway of her office with a message. Mr. Cruz has sent a request, Connor said. He set a card on her desk. Clean white card, Mara's name in neat print, a phone number, a brief line beneath it, handwritten. When you're ready. No rush. RC. She looked at the card. She looked at it for a while. She turned it over. Blank on the back. She turned it front again. Did Mr. Vega see this? She asked. Connor's face did its nothing. I received it at the front desk, he said. It was addressed to you. She nodded. Connor left. She set the card beside her keyboard. She did not pick it up again for the rest of the morning. She was aware of it the way you are aware of something at the edge of your vision, not looking directly, but knowing exactly where it is. She worked. She was always able to work. It was the most reliable thing about her. At noon, she picked up the card. She put it in the drawer. She left it there. She did not know yet what she was going to do with it. Dante was different that week. She had catalogued his habits so thoroughly over 11 months that she noticed variations the way a musician notices when someone in the orchestra is slightly off pitch. Small things. The way he paused in doorways for a half-second longer than usual. The way he looked at her when she was not looking at him. She was always looking at him, slightly, even when it appeared she wasn't. She was very good at this. It had taken her years of practice in her father's world to learn how to watch without appearing to. What she saw, Dante Vega was thinking about something. He was always thinking about something, so that was not the tell. The tell was that the thinking was getting in the way of him being present, which had never happened before, not once in 11 months. He was always present. It was one of the things that made him what he was. She brought him a contract to sign on Wednesday afternoon. He signed it in the wrong place. He noticed before she could say anything. He looked at the page. He said nothing. He signed it correctly. She took the contract and left. In the hallway outside his office, she stopped. She stood there for a moment. Then she kept walking. She called her sister on Wednesday night. Her sister, Lucy, was 21, finishing her last year of university. Mara had been quietly covering the tuition gap for the past 8 months, arranging the payments through her salary so that Lucy would not know where the money was coming from and would not ask questions that Mara did not want to answer. Lucy called her every Sunday. Sometimes Mara called her midweek, when the week was complicated, and she needed to hear a voice that had nothing to do with any of it. You sound strange, Lucy said, because Lucy was perceptive in the way of younger siblings who have spent years watching an older one manage things. I'm fine, Mara said. You sound like you do when you're trying not to think about something. Mara was quiet for a moment. Outside, the city was doing its evening things. Someone below was playing music, something with guitar. Something happened, she said. At a work event. What kind of something? She thought about how to answer this. She thought about Rafael Cruz's hand on her arm. She thought about Dante saying her name in one syllable, flat and precise, and the way she had followed him without a single word of resistance. I met someone, she said. Lucy was quiet. Then, okay. At a work event, Mara said again, as if repeating this made it more manageable. And nothing. He sent a card. What did the card say? That there was no rush. Another pause from Lucy. And the person you work for, Lucy said carefully. The one you don't tell me much about. Yes. He saw this? Yes. Lucy was quiet for long enough that Mara could hear her thinking. Mara, she said finally, what do you actually want? Mara looked at the ceiling. The apartment was very quiet. The light was low and the evening was pressing against the windows. I don't know, she said, which was the most honest thing she had said out loud in a very long time. She got off the phone a while later and sat in the kitchen for a while in the low light and thought about that. She had spent so long managing what she needed to manage that she had stopped asking herself what she wanted. The question felt new and slightly alarming, the way a quiet room feels slightly alarming when you are used to noise. She went to the drawer. She took out the card. She did not call the number, not yet. But she moved it from the drawer to the top of the counter, where it sat in the light, white and simple, and she went to bed. Thursday was ordinary in its structure, and strange in every other way. She had 3 meetings, 17 emails, a contract dispute to mediate, and a call with the legal team about a property acquisition. She handled all of it with her usual efficiency, and none of it reached the part of her brain that was quietly, in the background, running a different and much more complicated calculation. Dante appeared in her office doorway at 4 in the afternoon. He did this sometimes, stood in doorways. He rarely knocked. She had never minded. She minded it today slightly, which was new. "I need you at the port meeting tomorrow," he said. "I know," she said. "It's already on my schedule." He looked at her, just looked, for a moment longer than a doorway conversation required. She looked back. "Is there something else?" she said. He said, "Cruz reached out to you." It was not a question. Connor must have told him, or he had seen the visitor log. Either was possible. Both were ordinary in his world. "He did," she said. "You haven't responded." "No," she said. Dante nodded once, the same nod she had seen him use when he was processing something and not yet ready to do anything with what he had processed. He left the doorway. She heard him walk back down the hall. She turned back to her screen and stared at it for a full 30 seconds without reading anything. Then she picked up her phone. She did not call Rafael Cruz. She put the phone down. She went back to work. She could feel the shape of something forming, the shape of a decision she had not yet agreed to make. It sat at the edge of things, patient, not pushing. She had learned that the decisions that pushed were usually the wrong ones. The ones that waited were the ones that mattered. She thought about Rafael Cruz, his face, the ease of him, the way he had held her name in his mouth like something he had been waiting to say. She thought about Dante, his back disappearing through doorways. Coffee for two on a counter neither of them commented on. A woman's earring she had touched once and never mentioned. She thought about Lucy asking, "What do you actually want?" She did not answer the question, not out loud, not even to herself, but she left the card on the counter. Friday. The port meeting ran long. Dante was focused and precise the way he always was in operational settings, and she watched him work the room with the quiet authority that was simply his natural state. He never raised his voice. He never needed to. When Dante Vega spoke, people arranged themselves around his words. She did her job. She was good at it. On the drive back, he sat across from her in the back seat. The city passed the windows. The afternoon had turned gray, the particular gray of a city that is about to rain but hasn't yet. He said, "You were useful today." "You always tell me that," she said. "Because it's always true." She looked at him. He was looking out the window. His profile was clean against the gray light. She had looked at this profile more times than she could count, and she was tired, she realized, of not knowing what it meant that she kept looking. "Dante," she said. He turned. She had not used his first name often. She used it when something was important. They both knew this without having discussed it. "Rafael Cruz wants to meet with me," she said. "He says it's professional. He says he needs someone with my skills." Dante looked at her. His face was its usual controlled surface. "And?" he said. "I want to know," she said, keeping her voice level, "if that would be a problem." He was quiet. The car moved through the city. Someone on a corner selling something from a cart. A child pulling a dog on a leash. The ordinary theater of an ordinary afternoon. Dante said, "You are not a prisoner." "I know that," she said. "Your contract is with me professionally," he said. "What you do outside of your work hours is your own matter." His voice was even. It said all the right things. It was perfectly, carefully correct. She looked at him. He looked back out the window. Something tightened in her chest, small and specific. She recognized it because she had been ignoring it for several months. "All right," she said. She looked out her own window. The rain started, light and steady. The street darkened under it. She thought, he said all the right things. She thought, he said all the right things, and it felt worse than if he had said nothing. She held that thought in her hands for the rest of the ride and did not know what to do with it. She got out of the car when it stopped. She went upstairs. She stood in the kitchen. The card was still on the counter. She picked it up. She turned it over once, set it face up. She made tea. She stood at the window. The rain was coming harder now, the kind that blurs the city into a painting of itself. She thought about Dante's face, the way he had turned when she said his name, the 2 seconds before he answered, the window he had looked at instead of her. She thought about Rafael Cruz, his hand, his ease, his no rush. She thought about what it felt like to be seen. She put the card in her pocket. She did not call anyone that night. She just held the decision quietly, the way you hold something fragile when you are still deciding if it belongs to you. The rain fell. The city went on below. She stood at the window for a long time. She met with Rafael Cruz on a Tuesday. She chose the location, a small hotel restaurant near the financial district, neutral ground, professional setting, the kind of place where business meetings happened constantly, and no one looked twice at anyone. She was 15 minutes early. She ordered water. She organized herself. He was on time, not early, on time, which she filed away as the choice of a person who is confident without needing to perform it. He sat down across from her. He smiled. Not the practiced smile of Dante's world where smiles were instruments, a real one, the kind that reached the eyes first. "Thank you for coming," he said. "You said no rush," she said. "I took you at your word." "I meant it," he said. She looked at him. He looked back. He had, she noticed again, the particular quality of attention that made you feel the room had gotten a little smaller, not in a threatening way, in the way of being fully seen by someone who is paying complete and genuine attention. He told her about his company, import and logistics, legitimate and well-structured, expanding into 3 new markets. He needed someone with a specific set of skills, multilingual, operationally precise, comfortable with high-level coordination and discretion. He had, he said, been told about her by someone who knew someone who had worked beside her. He named the person. She recognized the name. It was a woman she had helped navigate a complicated customs problem 14 months ago, before Dante, when she had still been freelancing and desperate. She had helped that woman out of nothing but the instinct to solve problems that were in front of her. She had not expected to be remembered. "I was told," Raphael said, "that you had an arrangement currently. I'm not asking you to break that. I'm asking if there's a future conversation to be had." She liked that. The precision of it, not pulling, just placing a door and leaving it open. "What's the timeline?" she said. 6 months from now, roughly. I want to be ready before then." 6 months. Her arrangement with Dante had an end point somewhere around the 14-month mark at the current rate. 6 months from now would put her about 2 months out from freedom. She did the math without appearing to. "Tell me more about the role," she said. He did. She listened. She asked sharp questions. He answered them without hedging, which she respected. He had clearly thought about this carefully and was not improvising for her benefit. They talked for an hour and 20 minutes. He ordered coffee. She ordered another water. The restaurant moved around them in its ordinary way. At the end, he said, "I realize this is complicated. Work things often are," she said. He looked at her in the way he had at the gala, direct and careful, not performing anything. "I don't just mean the work things," he said. She said nothing. She picked up her glass. "I'm sorry," he said immediately. "That was out of line." "It's all right," she said. A pause. "Is it?" he said. She looked at him, he looked at her. The restaurant went on around them. "I'll be in touch," she said. She stood. She held out her hand. He stood and shook it, and his grip was warm and steady, and he held it for exactly the right length of time, not a second longer. She walked out. She stood on the pavement outside for a moment. The afternoon was cool. Someone cycled past. A bus went by, full of people going somewhere. She thought about what he had said. "I don't just mean the work things." She had not told him he was wrong. She put her hands in her pockets and walked back toward the office. She did not tell Dante about the meeting directly. She did not hide it, either. She had simply gone, and she had returned, and she set her bag down and went back to work. That evening he came to the kitchen doorway while she was making dinner. She was making pasta, which was one of 3 things she cooked reliably well. She was not thinking about anything in particular. She was thinking about pasta. She heard him in the doorway and did not turn. "How was your afternoon?" he said. "Fine," she said. "I had a meeting." A pause. "With Cruz?" "Yes," she said. She stirred. The water was almost boiling. She adjusted the heat. "And?" he said. "And it was a professional conversation," she said. She turned then, because she was not going to have this conversation with her back to him. She looked at him. He was standing in the doorway with his jacket off, and his sleeves rolled up, which was as close to casual as Dante Vega got. "He has a position he would like to offer me, in about 6 months. Dante's face showed nothing. It was very good at this. "Around the end of your contract," he said. "Around there, yes." He was quiet. She turned back to the pasta. "It is your right," he said, after a moment. "Yes," she said, "it is." The water boiled. She added the pasta. She stirred it. She heard him stay in the doorway for a moment. Then she heard him leave. She cooked. She ate at the counter, alone, the way she sometimes did when the apartment felt too large for a table. She thought about very little. She was good at this when she needed to be. She went to bed at a reasonable hour. She did not sleep for a very long time. The next 3 weeks were professionally unchanged. Dante was Dante. He was present, careful, demanding in the best way, and entirely controlled. She was herself. She worked well. She always did. But something had altered in the air between them. Something small and specific that she felt in the same way you feel a change in the temperature of a room before you can see a reason for it. The morning coffee was still there, both cups. The work was still fluid. The rhythm of their days was intact. And yet, she caught him looking at her 3 times that week, not the operational assessment look she was used to, the look that meant he was deciding if she was handling something well, something else, something that moved behind his eyes before he pulled it back. She was very careful not to look back. This was new. She had always looked back, not in any obvious way, just in the way of a person who is always paying attention. Lately, paying full attention to Dante felt like standing too close to a fire. You understood the warmth. You understood the risk. You managed the distance carefully. She managed it. 2 weeks after her meeting with Rafael Cruz, flowers arrived at the front desk. Connor brought them to her office. He set them down on her desk without a word, and left with the expression he always had, which was to say no expression at all. The flowers were pink, large and very pink, in a way that was completely at odds with the office, which was all clean lines and neutral tones. They were the loudest thing in the room. There was a small card. She opened it. It said, "Still no rush, but I wanted you to have something bright, RC." She read it twice. She set it down. She looked at the flowers. They were undeniably beautiful. They were also enormous and extremely pink, and they were sitting in the center of her office like a declaration she hadn't made. She moved them to the edge of the desk. She went back to work. She was 3 pages into a contract review when she heard him. She did not hear him walking. She never heard Dante walking until he was already near. It was something about the way he moved. Economical, deliberate, no wasted motion. He appeared in her doorway. He looked at the flowers. The flowers were very hard to miss. He looked at her. She looked back at him. Neither of them said anything for a moment. "They're from Cruz," she said. There was no reason to be evasive about it. "I assumed," Dante said. Another pause. The flowers sat between the two of them metaphorically, if not physically, though also somewhat physically, since they were on the desk, and the desk was between her and the door. "Is that a problem?" she said. Dante was quiet. This was the part she had learned to read in him, the quality of his silences. He had many kinds. The thinking silence, the deciding silence, the silence that meant someone was about to receive very bad news, though never from her. This silence was different from all of those. "No," he said finally, and turned and left. She stared at the doorway for a moment. Then she looked at the flowers. Then she picked up her phone. She typed a message to Rafael Cruz. "Thank you. They're loud, which I needed." She paused. She added, "I'd like to talk more about the role, when you have time." She sent it. She set the phone down. She looked at the contract. She looked at the flowers. She went back to the contract. The phone buzzed within a minute. She looked at it. Rafael Cruz had sent back. Loud was intentional. "Saturday, if you're free." She looked at the message for a long moment. She looked at the flowers. She typed, "Saturday works." She sent it. She closed the message. She pulled the contract back to the center of the screen. She read the sentence she had been reading before all of this, and actually processed it this time. She worked for another 3 hours. She did not let herself think about the look on Dante's face when he had seen the flowers, the 1 second before his face closed, the single controlled word before he left. She did not think about it. She was very good at not thinking about things. She was slightly less good at it than she had been 11 months ago. That was the thing she noticed, sitting at her desk with the pink flowers at the edge of her vision, and the contract on her screen. She was slightly less good at all of it than she used to be. She was not sure yet if that was a loss or something else entirely. Saturday arrived with the particular quality of winter mornings in this city, clean and cold and full of light that didn't warm anything. She dressed carefully, not expensively. She wore a coat she liked and boots she trusted and pulled her hair back simply. She looked at herself in the mirror and thought, this is just breakfast. She was meeting Rafael Cruz for breakfast, which she had done 1,000 times with 100 different people for work reasons. And this was a work reason too. And she looked fine. She looked fine. She went into the kitchen to get her bag. Dante was at the table. On a Saturday. She had not seen him at breakfast on a Saturday in 11 months. Saturdays were his. He did whatever he did on Saturdays, and she did not know and did not ask, because it had never been relevant. He was at the table, coffee, a newspaper, unread, lying flat. He looked up when she came in. She noticed his eyes move to her coat, her bag, the assembled picture of a woman who was about to go somewhere. She went to the counter. She poured coffee. She considered pouring him a second cup and decided against it, which she noticed herself deciding, which was irritating. Early start, he said. I have a meeting, she said. She said meeting, not breakfast. She noticed that too. On a Saturday, he said. Yes, she said. She held her coffee with both hands. He sat at the table, and the newspaper stayed flat, and she looked at the window, and the city outside was gray and bright in equal measure. Dante said, Mara. She looked at him. He said, sit down. It was not a command. He didn't often command her, actually. He asked, he requested. He said things as statements that could be requests if you looked at them right. This was different. His voice was lower than usual. It had something in it she had not heard before. She sat down. She sat across from him with her coffee and waited. He looked at the table for a moment, then at her. Did you want to stay? He said. At the gala. With him. The room was very quiet. She said nothing. He looked at her face. He was reading it the way he read contracts. Systematically, without missing anything. She kept her face as still as she could. Mara, he said. Why are you asking me this? She said. Because I want to know. Why do you want to know? He was quiet. The city was out there behind the glass, going about its Saturday. She could hear it distantly. Someone's dog, a bus. Because I should have asked sooner, he said. I should have asked a long time ago. She looked at him. He was looking at her with the same directness he brought to everything. Nothing performed, nothing softened, just the full weight of his attention. Asked what, exactly? She said, because she needed him to say it. She had spent 11 months learning to work with what he offered without asking for more, and she was not going to accept an implication now, when the real thing was apparently possible. Dante breathed in slowly. He set his hands flat on the table. He looked at her. What do you want? He said. From this, from any of it. She held his gaze. That's the question you're asking me? Yes. Now, she said. You're asking me now. Yes, he said again. And his voice had something in it that she recognized because she had felt it herself, the particular quality of a person saying something they should have said far earlier and who knows it and is saying it anyway. She sat back. She looked at the table, at her coffee cup. She thought about the earring on the counter she had never mentioned, the 2 seconds before he answered anything, the way he had stood in the rain outside his building once, 3 months ago, making a call, and she had watched through the window and thought, he looks like a man who is used to standing alone. She had thought it with great precision, and then gone back to work. I have a breakfast, she said. I know. She looked up. He was watching her, no pretense. Just watching her the way you watch someone you have been watching for a long time and have finally stopped trying not to. He's good, she said, meaning Rafael Cruz. She said it precisely, not as a provocation, but as a true thing. He's easy to be around. He pays attention. I know he does, Dante said. You pay attention too, she said. You have always paid attention, but you... She stopped. He waited. You paid attention the way someone tends to something they value, she said. You maintained it. You kept it. You made sure nothing was wrong with it. She looked at the window. That's not the same as wanting it. The room was very quiet. Dante said, I made a mistake. She looked at him. I thought keeping a distance was protection, he said. For you. From what? From this, he said, and he gestured. Not at the apartment, not at himself, but at the whole complicated structure of everything around them, the world he operated in, the thing it cost. She was quiet for a long time. She thought about protection. She thought about how many people in her life had decided for her what she needed protecting from. Her father, who had made decisions she'd had to live with. Men at dinner tables who smiled while they spoke about her. The careful management of her life as if she were a thing to be curated, rather than a person with her own capacity for choice. She thought about how Dante had done this too. Differently, with more care, with no cruelty. But still decided what she could handle without asking her. "You should have let me make that choice," she said. He nodded, one slow nod, the acknowledging nod she had seen 100 times. This one was different, because it was aimed at himself. "Yes," he said. She looked at him. He looked at her. She thought about Rafael Cruz, his breakfast, his flowers, his no rush. She thought about Lucy asking, "What do you actually want?" She thought about herself, at 17, sitting in the dark beside her father, learning to manage things she had not chosen. She thought about the 11 months of building something, a life, a routine, a version of herself that was steadier than the one who had walked in here with a broken bag and wet shoes. And she thought about what she had built it on top of. She thought, "I have always known." She had not let herself know that she had always known. "I'm going to go have breakfast," she said. Dante said nothing. "Because I told him I would," she said, "and I keep my word." Dante nodded. "And when I come back," she said, "I want to have a real conversation. Not," she looked at him, "not the kind where you say all the right things in a way that means nothing. I want a real one." He held her gaze. "When you come back," he said. She stood. She picked up her bag. She finished the last of her coffee standing at the table. She looked at him one more time. He was sitting at the table in a quiet kitchen on a Saturday morning, and he looked, for the first time in 11 months, like a man who had put down something very heavy. He looked tired in the way that people look tired when they have been holding something for a long time. She went to the door. She put on her coat. She stopped. "Dante," she said, without turning. "Yes," he said. "The earring on the counter," she said, 8 months ago." A pause. "It was my sister's," he said. "She came for dinner while you were away at the Lyon meeting. She forgot it." Mara stood at the door. He had a sister. She had not known that. In 11 months she had not known that. "You never mentioned you had a sister," she said. "You never asked," he said. She turned and looked at him. He looked back. "Tell me about her," she said. "When I come back." Something moved across his face, small and real. "All right," he said. She left. She met Rafael Cruz at a small restaurant 2 blocks from the park. He was already there. He stood when she came in. He held out his hand and she shook it, and they sat down, and he smiled at her, and she thought, "This is a good man." She thought that clearly and honestly. He was a good man, warm and intelligent and real in the way that some people simply are, comfortable in themselves, curious about other people, easy in the world. She thought about Dante sitting at the kitchen table on a Saturday morning for the first time in 11 months. She thought about the coffee for 2 that neither of them had ever named. "I want to talk to you honestly," she said to Rafael Cruz. "I prefer that," he said. "I think I may not be available in 6 months," she said, "in the way I think you were hoping I might be." He looked at her. He was quiet for a moment, reading the sentence the way she had meant it, as a full sentence, all its layers. "Professionally or otherwise," he said. "Both," she said. He took this with the same ease he took everything. He nodded. He picked up his coffee. "Then I'm glad we talked," he said. "The professional offer stands regardless, if your situation changes. The other thing," he looked at her with something gentle and honest in his face. "I should have been slower." "You were very slow," she said. "No rush, you said." "I meant it," he said. "I also wanted to know if there was a door." "You found out," she said. "Yes," he said. "I did." And he smiled. Not a disappointed smile, a real one. They had breakfast. They talked about his company, about logistics, about a complicated trade route he was trying to untangle. She had 3 good ideas, and she gave him all 3, without holding anything back, because that was who she was. He listened carefully, and thanked her, and they talked about other things. His family in the south of the country, her sister finishing university, A book they had both read for reasons they could not fully remember. An hour and a half, then they shook hands on the pavement outside. "Take care of yourself," he said. "You too," she said. She walked back through the city. It was late morning now. The gray had lifted slightly, not warmth but brightness, the winter kind that makes everything look very clear and very specific. She walked past the bakery she liked and went in and bought 2 things without thinking about it, and then stood on the pavement with the small bag and thought, "Oh." She kept walking. She got back to the building. She took the elevator. She stood outside the apartment door for a moment. Then she went in. Dante was not at the table anymore. He was by the window, standing, the way he did sometimes, the way she had seen from a distance that once and thought, a man used to standing alone. He heard her come in. He turned. She held up the bag from the bakery. "I bought 2, she said. He looked at the bag. He looked at her. "Did you?" he said. "I did," she said. "I don't know exactly why." He walked toward her. The apartment was very quiet. The city was outside doing all its ordinary things. The kitchen counter where the card had been was empty now. She had taken the card with her, and she did not know yet what she would do with it, and that was fine. She set the bag on the counter. He stood close. Closer than the 11 months of maintained distance had ever allowed. He looked at her face, not at the bag, not at the window. "You came back," he said. "I said I would," she said. He was quiet for a moment. "Tell me," he said, "what do you want?" She looked at him. She had spent 11 months learning his face. She knew it very well. She knew the controlled surface of it, and the 2 seconds before he answered anything, and the single word he gave you when you'd done something right, and the way he said her name, as a full sentence when she needed to pay attention. She knew that his sister had forgotten an earring 8 months ago. She knew that she had lain awake about a piece of gold for 6 weeks and never said a word. She knew that he had been standing alone at windows long before she arrived. She thought about what Lucy had asked her. "I want the real conversation," she said, "the one you promised." He nodded. "And I want—" She stopped. She looked at him. "I want you to stop deciding what I can handle." A pause. "Yes," he said. "That's it?" She said. "That's it," he said. "I understand." She looked at him. He looked at her. The bag was on the counter. 2 things from a bakery she had bought without deciding to, which was either significant or just breakfast, and maybe both were true. "All right," she said. She opened the bag. She took one out. She handed him the other. He took it. They stood at the counter and ate in the quiet, the city going on outside, the morning doing what mornings do, when something has shifted, and the air knows it before the people in it do. She thought, this is what it feels like. Not the big version of it, not the dramatic version, just this, standing in a kitchen on a Saturday with the light coming through the glass and a person beside you who finally asked the right question. She ate her pastry, he ate his. The morning continued. She thought, 11 months. She thought, it could have been sooner. She thought, it wasn't, and here they were anyway, and that was the shape of it. Outside, the city moved. Inside, 2 people stood at a counter and let the quiet be what it was. Not empty, not waiting, just full of the ordinary and careful beginning of something that had, in its way, already begun a long time ago.